Marketplaces are harder to solve, but doing without paid ads is even harder. In this growth marketing stories, you will find out how Growth Mentor grew without paid ads. Stay tuned. This is Growth Marketing Stories. So, a few months ago, I invested $40,000 on paid search. Turns out, if you're creating a category, paid search isn't for you. I knew this, but still wanted to run this experiment. Later on, I thought about what if I should invest in SEO. Grammarly, Airtable, Notion, and many other creators have doubled down on SEO. Should I do that too? I was just wondering. So, the way to actually figure it out was I wanted to reach out to someone who is in B2C and at tech space. I immediately thought about growth mentors as my platform, and that mentor called me actually save a ton of money by just chatting with someone who went through the exact same process and same issue. Are you having some nuanced question that you can't answer? I would suggest you to try Growthmentor. There are 272 high quality mentors who are on the platform for free. Even I am for free. You can actually chat with me with and talk about it. Usually I charge $250, but on Growth Mentors, my calls are for free. So have one-on-one conversation about growth, marketing, and everything in between with the world top 3% of the startup marketing mentors and salespeople. You can use the code AZAR, AAZAR 15 and get exclusive discount in your subscription. It's in the description already. Tell us about Growth Mentor. How did you come up with the idea of Growth Mentor?
Yeah, so the idea of Growth Mentor came up because I was trying to scratch my own itch. I wanted to talk with more people in growth and get their perspectives on some of the things I was working on at EuroVPS. And it was a little bit of a convoluted process that I thought of to do that. I would go on Upwork and basically just book calls with hire freelancers just to talk to them. And this was around 2016 or so. And around that time, Jessica, my wife, was doing a lot of calls, English tutoring calls on this platform called iTalkI. And she was doing around 6, 7, 8 hours a day of calls. So I was looking at her and I was looking at this platform. I was like, wow, I mean, this is a pretty cool idea. I mean, this platform here, connecting people, tutors with people that want to learn languages. And from a product perspective, that was the inspiration. But from a use case perspective, the inspiration was my own sort of journey of trying to find other people to validate what I was working on myself. Right. So when you're in growth and you don't have anybody else to bounce ideas off of, it can get really lonely and you can kind of beat yourself up because there's so many different ways to do the right thing, per se, like technically the right thing. Right. So just being able to kind of talk these things through can be very liberating.
Okay. So that's how the idea came in. And talk to me about how did you're an employee. So this is my hierarchy of wealth or startups. First, you are yourself as a startup. Like if you're a one-person company, you're a freelancer or an employee. Then you're an agency. That's a second level of startup. Okay, you run as an agency, like a couple of people, which is like leveraging people rather than capital. Then you have your own startup, which is SaaS software, which could be leveraging code rather than leveraging yourself. And then you have the next level, which is social networks and marketplace. And you run as kind of a SaaS company. Why the heck you chose a marketplace, which is the hardest thing to solve?
I was never scared of challenges. For me, this was the only way to really solve this problem was connecting people. And I thoroughly enjoy that process of connecting the right people. And I believed in the mission behind it. And
so what's the mission?
Well, the mission is to help people that needs that to not feel alone, right? To actually have real one-on-one connections, right? If you look at social media nowadays, and there's just so much noise, right? There's so much static. You go on these long threads, these Facebook you ask for help, you ask for an opinion, 100 people are going to comment. They're all contradictory sort of viewpoints. I just felt like there needed to be another option out there where people could connect with others that genuinely actually enjoyed helping other people out, right? Because I was one of those guys that their friends from college would come to and be like, hey, I have this idea. Can you help me out with the marketing? And, I informally mentor people from my own inner circle all the time. And I enjoyed that, right? And I was like, there's got to be other people out there that also get a kick out of that. Right? So that was sort of the working hypothesis behind it. back to your question about the marketplace, I wouldn't consider Growthmentor a pure play marketplace right now, right? So because we do have subscription elements on top of it. And if we would have stayed with the marketplace model, we would have failed a long time ago. So that was the initial idea. It was, hey, let's get a bunch of mentors on and let's get a bunch of mentees and we'll make some sort of a commission. We'll monetize the GMV that comes through and take a rake. We tried that for a couple of months and we realized that, well, this is never, ever going to work because most of the mentors are doing the calls for free. So it's like, well, 15% of zero is still zero, right? So, we for like 8 months or so, it was completely free to join Growthmentor. Like you could sign up, no credit card, nothing, and then book like unlimited free calls with any of the mentors. So we saw the value up front that people were getting. So after we saw the insane value, then we decided to put some sort of a paywall and actually monetize.
Okay. And then why do people book call for free? Like, I mean, not book, like, why do people offer their time for free? Why do they offer this time for free?
I mean, it's a variety.
But it's insane, right? It's insane. We work for somebody, we start them, and when we're giving mentorship call, it's free. So I want people to understand, like, why is it free? What's in it for the mentors?
This is the most common question that we get. And the answers are, it really depends on the mentor, but I'll tell you some of the most common answers that the mentors give. So number one, they do it because they're at this point in their career where they want to give back and they want to help people out, right? So for them, making $50, $100 is not going to help them. Like they're already financially successful. They've probably paid off their houses. Maybe a lot of the mentors on Growthmentor have done quite nice exits and have very lofty salaries. So for them, making money off mentorship calls isn't really something that they're interested in. If they wanted to, they could go to clarity.fm and they could charge $5 a minute over there, right? But on Growthmentor, another reason why they do it is because they get exposed to so many different problems that people are facing around the world, right? So just getting this exposure of different pain points that founders and marketers are having makes them stronger, right? So they say the best way to learn is by teaching, right? If you can coherently articulate what's going on in your head into words, then that means you kind of know your shit, right? But if you can't explain a concept, then do you really even know it, right? So it's a way for them to stress test what they actually know themselves. Another reason why a lot of the mentors do it is because of the social proof as well, right? They know that it's very difficult to get in as a mentor. We have a very low acceptance rate. The vetting process is quite stringent, and by being on the platform and amassing those reviews, they can then leverage that as social proof on their own websites. We promote the mentors a lot as well, so it helps build their personal brands too. So so there's a variety of different reasons why they do it. A lot. Also, let's be honest. There is in the back of the head the concept of you never know what might happen off of a call, right? So maybe this might lead into a business opportunity. Maybe I can invest in the startup, or maybe I can get hired. You never really know, right? There's been cases where a mentor jumped off on a mentorship call, and then that mentee was raising the seed rounds, hired them as a head of growth, and then 6 months later they raised a $20 million Series A, right? And he had equity. So you have these sort of amazing stories as well.
Great.
But for the most part, though, it's just because they want to chat to people. They find it fun.
Okay, and what's in it for a mentee, and what kind of people actually join on the platform?
So the obvious reason why the mentees do it is because they want to get help, right? They want to get unstuck with whatever it is that challenge that they're facing. So the type of people that join are generally founders. 65% of our user base are tech startup founders. The primarily SaaS, I would say, if you want to sub-segment, SaaS, B2B SaaS is really hot on Growthmentor. But then you've got prop tech, fintech, legal tech, all the techs. And recently we've been seeing quite an influx of D2C e-commerce brands joining. And then another 25, 30% or so are marketers employed at startups. And then probably around 5% or so are product managers who join. But the motivations behind joining, if you want to make a pie chart of the topics, the use cases of all the different calls, what they're being booked about, one slice is going to be more than 6%, right? So it's really diverse.
We'll get into your growth story, which is very interesting. How did you grow a marketplace, a two-sided place? But I really want to understand one thing from you in terms of Growthmentor is that why people keep a subscription cost for this monthly subscription? Like, what's the reason to have a subscription? Because I personally do not have more than 2 calls per week in Growthmentor, and I'm as a mentee, right, as somebody who's using myself as well. So what's the reason for somebody to have a subscription for this?
Insurance, that if ever you get stuck with something, you've got somebody on call, right, for whatever it is. So consider how much it would cost to hire a consultant with a level of expertise that the average mentor has, right? So the average mentor has like 6-7 years experience at least, and is at the top of their game, right? So these people normally would charge around $100 to $200 an hour. So whenever they want, if they run into an issue with their Facebook ads, or they feel burned out, or they're not being able to manage their team correctly, or they want a second opinion on how they've set up their Notion company wiki, you just make a session request and boom, you jump on a call. Like what you said, two a month is kind of like on average, right? Like it's the same sort of distribution as you see with most usage-based platforms, where you've got like 10% of your user base, which is utilizing, which has like a 8x, 10x higher usage than the huge long tail, right? So I'd say the median usage is around like 2.4 sessions per month. There's obviously outliers. I think last month the mentee with the most number of bookings was around like, I think 42 he booked. I don't know how he managed to do that, but he booked 42 sessions in 1 month. But then there's like loads of mentees that just book one, right? But we offer really good discounts for longer term commitments. But you're right though, like it is a learning platform. Like with all learning platforms, churn is always an issue, right? So getting people engaged for us, like from a product perspective, like one of our biggest objectives is how can we get people using the platform, right? Because if they're not getting value out of it, there's absolutely no reason for them to renew. And we wouldn't want somebody to stay paying month after month if they're not actually using the platform, right?
So I personally use as a mentee, just to give you some feedback, it's like I personally find the people who I'm talking to, they know their shit. And I don't need to do research on LinkedIn. I don't need to like talk to somebody, hey, can you refer somebody who has gone through this? I just go to Growthmentor, browse people, look at the experience, look at the specific kind of a specialty that I'm looking for, and I can easily talk to people. And I don't need to go and vet them. I don't need to find out if they are legit people, if they will give me good advice. Usually it's always good advice. So that's my personal experience. But let's move into your growth story, because that's the most interesting one. Because if I'm correct, the supply side, you started with the supply side, right?
Yeah.
And with the supply side, how did you do it? How did you find few mentors?
We started by just doing some targeted outreach on LinkedIn. And we didn't start with many. We started with around 15 when we launched. We did a bit of a market research as well, reaching out to experts that were on Clarity, just asking like, how's it going? Are you getting sessions? And a lot of the people that we reached out to were kind of intrigued by what we were building. Another way that we got some of the initial mentors, Costa Panagullas, which has now over 100 reviews. I think he's done over 250 calls. He did a interview on indie hackers. Right. So I figured, hey, these guys are going over there and they're sharing their entire growth stories on these platforms here. Probably that's an indicator that they have the sort of mindset and culture of helping people out. Right. So I reached out to some of those people as well. That made an impression on me. It wasn't much though, to be honest with you. Like it was just 15, 16 mentors to start with. Yeah. Then we launched and we had dozens of applications per week from that point onwards, because it is kind of a unique product in a space that there's no real direct alternative specifically for growth. So people wanted to apply and join. They found it intriguing. Right? So from that point on, it was just an inbound game.
Okay. So supply side wasn't hard, but I've seen you've been talking about it over the period of time to get the demand side working really well. Talk me through, like, since 2018, since we got connected, like, how did you think about demand side? What were some successes and what were some failures in the initiative? Yeah. Talk about one initiative and then was it successful? Was it not successful?
Successful for us is ranking position number 1 for Startup Mentor. That was always my objective from day one. SEO, just planting the seeds really early on. You've got a two-sided marketplace. There's so many different use cases of the product. You want to create landing pages that are indexed for each one of these different long tail derivatives of the initial sort of broad keyword of mentor. So you got mentor, you have product market fit mentor, you have Google Ads mentor, Facebook Ads mentor, just all these different variations that you can rank for. right? So my objective from day one was to think of an SEO strategy that would be able to accomplish that objective of just having full spectrum dominance over the SERPs. For the broad term for the long tail derivatives of mentorship, right? So that was the first one. That took a couple of months, not as long as I thought it would be to take, but worked out well. And then another growth tactic that worked, which kind of was just by accident, like we didn't think of this, it just happened, is the referral loop from the mentors adding Growthmentor on their LinkedIn profile. So I'm telling you, probably 80% of the mentors that apply to Growthmentor found us from that loop. So this is really a supply side loop, but a lot of the mentees that see Growthmentor see it from just checking out other people's LinkedIn profiles and be like, oh my God, they're a mentor at Growthmentor. What's this? Curiosity. They click into it, and then down the rabbit hole they go. Right. But I have on Mixpanel, the last step of the onboarding wizard is like, where did you find us? That sort of manual attribution question. And 60% of the answers say Google search. Another 29% say word of mouth. But in reality, word of mouth is higher because if they click other, they can write. And then a lot of people say, oh, I saw you on this forum, or, basically we call it the dark funnel, right? The new buzzword of the year. So word of mouth and Google search. We've experimented with every channel, though. I've experimented with all of the ad platforms, search, Facebook, Reddit, Quora, Twitter ads. None of it works. Like the only thing that works from a paid perspective is just display retargeting ads on Google. So I finally come to the realization that paid is not something that I feel comfortable investing further into, and just doubling down on content, SEO, and just brand, right? Just like helping the mentors actually promote themselves and being almost like an ambassador to the mentors, because I feel like that's what we owe it to them as well, to help promote their personal brands, because they're doing so much by giving back and doing all of these calls on Growthmentor. So any chance that we can to get them on the podcast, which we're starting up again now, or interview them and drop some snippets on LinkedIn, that's what we do. So yeah, hope that gives a kind of a long-winded answer to your question.
Yeah. So you did some programmatic SEO, and talk to me about it. Like, how did you do that? Like, did you write the content? I think some content was user-generated, mentor-generated, right? So mentor wrote about the profile. They're a UX design mentor. I am a growth mentor, marketing mentor, whatever that is. Like, how did you think about programmatic SEO? Because I think this is like kind of a topic not talked enough about programmatic SEO. So like people are thinking about programmatic SEO. How should they think about it?
I didn't do programmatic SEO for the landing pages on the WordPress, right? That's something that we're currently planning on doing in probably tail end Q1, early Q2, by leveraging the WordPress API and playing around with JSON a bit. But generally speaking, we just hacked it by hand, man. So like, on the mentor profile pages, you can add all these expertise like growth, PPC, Facebook ads, and you have to write that snippet of text, like saying why you're good at it, 150 to 500 characters. If you want to add some expertise on your profile, you got to write a couple of sentences why you're good at it. So we took that content that the mentors wrote, and we basically compiled it into landing pages, right? So if you Google Facebook ads mentors, right, you'll see a landing page that we created with like 6, 7, 8 different mentors with the snippet that they had on their landing pages. So you can, if you don't have the dev resources to figure out programmatic SEO and do things at scale like that, you could just hack it together and do it by hand. And what I did is I leveraged some virtual assistants from Upwork and just created a nice little Loom video and said, okay, you're going to go on these profiles here, copy, paste, put it in the WordPress. So we kind of hacked it by hand a bit, And we made 100 landing pages in the beginning. Now we have around 150 of these. But the next step is going to be programmatic, because one of the benefits that programmatic SEO brings into play is that you have constantly refreshed dynamic data, right? Which that gives the signals to Google, hey, check this, crawl this domain a little bit more because things are happening here, right? It's updating and so on and so forth. So that's something that I'm really excited about, and for sure we're going to invest some resources into that in Q2.
Okay. Have you thought about influencer marketing at all? Like not influencer marketing on LinkedIn, but like somebody who is, let's say your audience is startup founders, like 60% of them. And I don't know, somebody like founder like Shanpuri or Shampar, who are also have similar community, right? Founder community, to work as a partnership with them and try to find something that works for you. Like just thinking out loud, like have you thought about these influencer marketing where founders are already learning from these guys? Indie Hacker, for example, right? So to run it in a way that can benefit both parties.
Yeah, absolutely. We're always on the lookout for partners. Last week, we were on a biz dev meet and greet call with one of the biggest no-code founder communities out there. I'm not going to say the name, but probably something's going to happen there. We've done partnerships with different communities as well. And I have no problem actually promoting these. We don't view ourselves as competitors whatsoever, right? The space is big enough for a lot of players to exist. So I like to have really good relationships with other community founders. And it's absolutely something that we're open to. So if you run a community and you want to get in contact and see if we can work something out, just reach out.
Perfect. So what worked was usually SEO, content, branding, and you're going to double down on that. So
and building relationships, just being a human, just helping people out, trying to be as helpful as possible. Don't hoard secrets, be honest, admit when you fuck up, like just, be like approachable, I guess, right? There's a lot of these gurus out there who, you have to, watch out because they might not reply to you and, they might get at things the wrong way. Like they're not very approachable. I really don't like that sort of style. So like anybody can reach out and happy to help in any way. Right, so that sort of value we try and push throughout the entire community as well. So yesterday I was on the Slack community for the mentees, and one of the mentees said, "Hey, does anybody have any experience with Webflow?" And then I tagged one of the other mentees. He said, "Yeah, jump on a call with me. Here's my Calendly." And then another woman also replied and said, "I also need some help. Can I piggyback on the same call?" It's like, no. I'll give you the one-on-one attention you need. Just book another time as well. Right. So this sort of just wholesome interaction within the community, I think it's what is probably our biggest growth loop. It's just people talk about it. It's not a place where we're pitching some upsell to buy some hidden vaults in the back end where all the real secrets are going to be. You know what I mean?
That's your moat, man. Community is your moat. That's where you should be doubling down on. Thank you so much for coming over. Where can people find you? And wherever they find you, they need to put when they go to Growthmentor, AZAR15 as a discount code to get 15%, right?
Yeah, AZAR15, get 15% off. They can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, and of course on Growthmentor. Book a call with me.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
This is Growth Marketing Story with your host, and he goes by Azar. Come learn from the mindset of growth marketers. This is Growth Marketing Story with your host, and he